call today's calendar, please?
Your Honor, today's case is the State versus Kevin Wiggins.
Is the prosecution and the defense ready to begin?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
May you introduce yourself to the court, please?
May it please the court and members of the jury, my name is Thomas, concurrent counsel for the state in this action.
Second counsel for the state, Chief Green.
May it please the court and members of the jury, my name is Rebecca Nethercourt,
And I'm Carl Scallop.
and we are counsel for the defendant, Kevin Wiggins.
Okay, is the defendant in court today?
Yes.
May you please stand? Thank you, sir. Prosecutor, ready to begin?
Your Honor, on September 17, 1988, Doris Lax, an elderly white woman with signs of sexual assault, was found drowned in the bathtub of a ransacked apartment in Woodlawn, Maryland. The defendant, Mr. Wiggins, had been painting at her apartment building and was seen conversing with Ms. Lax on September 15th. That same evening, he went shopping with the victim's credit cards and took some of the jewelry to a pawnbroker. 4 days later, the police found two African Americans, Mr. Wiggins and his girlfriend, Geraldine Armstrong, traveling in the victim's car. Mr. Wiggins has already been charged with murdering and robbing Ms. Lax. It is shown by evidence that Wiggins is eligible for the death penalty because he is a principal in the first degree of Ms. Lax's death.
Thank you, defense.
Your Honor, on September 17, 1988, defendant Kevin Wiggins was a victim of temptation. And as a painter, his crime was of bad judgment. The defense will prove the defendant did not sexually assault or drown Florence Lax, but happened upon a fatal situation and took an opportunity to take before thinking. Thank you.
Prosecutor, would you like to call your first witness?
My witness is Ms. Aaliyah Andrews. She's the store clerk at Auburn Clothing Store, and Ms. Alice Thompson, the social worker. However, before I proceed, here is Exhibit 1. This is the speeding ticket given to Mr. Wiggins on the on September the 19th, the day he was pulled over. And here's also Exhibit 2, and this is a duplicate receipt from Auburn Clothing Store that was presented to us by the court clerk, by the store clerk. Ms. Aaliyah Andrews, can you please assume the witness stand?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I am.
So help you God.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Aaliyah Andrews?
You work as a court clerk, as a store clerk at Auburn Clothing, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recognize the defendant, Mr. Wiggins, sitting over there?
Yes.
Do you recognize Mr. Wiggins as having made a purchase at some point at your store?
Yes.
Can you please take a look at this receipt? Does it look like the receipts that is offered by your store when customers come in to make purchases?
Yes.
Now, that receipt bears a time of 8:15 p.m. Is that consistent with the time that you think Mr. Wiggins may have come into the store to make purchases on September the 15th?
Yes.
I have no more questions, Your Honor.
Defense, you want to cross?
Yes. Can I have your name again, ma'am?
Aaliyah Andrews?
And you said you recognize the defendant?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins. Now, can you please tell me, on an average day as a grocery clerk you are, correct? How many customers do you see on a regular basis? How many people? 50 to 100 a day. All ethnicities, correct?
Yes.
White, black, Hispanic, everywhere, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're telling me that you're 110% sure that you saw a client, Mr. Wiggins, at your grocery store?
Yes.
No further questions.
Here it is. The next witness, Mr. Thomas.
Ms. Alice Thompson, can you please assume the witness stand?
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Ms. Alice Thompson?
Are you licensed?
Yes, certified by the Association of Social Work Department.
Now, the defendant, Mr. Wiggins, testified that he has been, in the course of his childhood, sexually and physically assaulted. Is that consistent with the reports you have of him?
Not exactly. There were reports of his mother being an alcoholic and burning his hand as a child. But as far as that, no. He did try to commit suicide while in jail. They was put in my records. No physical, psychological, or emotional problems.
All right. So going by the consistencies, in the inconsistencies of Mr. Wiggins' testimony and what you have on your reports, would you say at this point that Mr. Wiggins may have falsified some elements of his testimony?
Possibly, yes.
I have no more questions, Your Honor.
Olivia Cross.
Yes. Okay. So you stated that you ran tests on the defendant's statement.
I didn't run tests. I didn't have reports.
You had reports?
Yes.
Okay. So on any of the reports, did you happen to see any information regarding my client's IQ? Because I noticed you said, you know, his mom suffered
I believe it was 79.
79.
Okay.
Okay. I believe it was 72.
You went 72.
Yes, 72. Have you had a conversation with my client, Mr. Wiggins? No. And you never spoke to him directly about this child?
No, I just read past.
Are you aware that he was housed in foster care for the majority of his childhood?
Yes, and I'm also aware that there was no sexual abuse in those cases.
And your evidence is conclusive because of DNA testing or rectal disparity testing?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Really, thank you.
Defense, do you have any witnesses for us this evening?
Yes, Your Honor. We would like to call up defendant Kevin Wiggins' girlfriend, Geraldine Armstrong.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
How you doing? Must be hard over there for you, you know, to see your mate next to it, defendant Mr. Wiggins. I understand that you've been together for how long?
2 years.
For 2 years. In the 2 years, would you say that the defendant is a good man of character, artistic man since he's a painter?
Yes.
Has the defendant ever spoken to you of his childhood and problems?
Yes.
And
Objection, Your Honor.
On what grounds?
On the grounds of gaslighting.
Continue.
thank you, Your Honor. The sexual abuse that the psychiatrist said did not happen. Had you ever heard of these things from the defendant, Kevin Wiggins? So you've never heard of any cases of it. Has he ever shown you signs of aggression, anger, disgruntled behavior?
No.
Has he ever tried to assault you or have forceful?
No.
Would you call Mr. Wiggins an emotional man? A very emotional, passionate guy?